All right, man. Let's get into it. I'm Kyle. That's James. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. We love the homies at Jiffy Lube. We have a little bit of an announcement coming up later on in the show. Just a small one.
Oh.
Small one. Not a huge deal. I don't want to, I'm not downplaying a big thing. It's just kind of a little announcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I hope so. You know what it is.
Well, that's the best part about getting older, Kyle, is that you forget everything.
You just
everything is a new and exciting thing for me, even though we talked about it 45 minutes ago.
Great. Okay. Yeah. No doubt. We'll have that coming up a little bit later on in the show. We will also have your Jiffy Lube Fast Break Player of the Game coming up a little bit later on. We will give you the keyword for that for your chance to win a $100 Jiffy Lube gift certificate and your chance to enter to win a Sacramento Kings jersey. So the Kings beat the Grizzlies last night, 103-94. And I find myself in a spot where I'm contradicting my own thoughts.
Okay.
Because yesterday we talked about the 49ers win over the Lions, right? And we talked about Brock Purdy and the analysis of Brock Purdy and the 49ers, and I said, it feels like at the end of everything, we forget that the point of the game is winning.
Mm-hmm.
Like the point of the sport is to win. The 49ers won their playoff game, and now they're playing for a Super Bowl. And if they win that, they will be the champions. Regardless of what you think about how this player plays in a vacuum or that player, just the point is to win. But then conversely, I watched the Kings face whatever version of the Memphis Grizzlies that was last night. A G League version.
That was not even a version. I don't even know what that was.
I don't know what their G League affiliate is.
The Hustle.
The Hustle?
Memphis Hustle.
Of course it is. So it's like if Tony Allen was a basketball team.
That's right.
No, so they played the Memphis Hustle Grizzlies last night, and the Kings play really poorly for most of that game, and then they just had more NBA players on the court and pulled away in the final minutes and won it by 9. And I sit there and I go, I mean, I guess, yeah, you won, but to what end?
Kyle, I kept thinking, is this the Detroit game where you just get off to a bad start? You give up 47 points in the first quarter, and then you just roll them up.
Yeah.
But then I started at some point. I mean, we talked about this a little bit, texting back and forth during the game last night. I didn't think that there was any moment where they were going to lose. But I was worried at one point. I'm like, well, this is starting to look more like the Charlotte game, not the Detroit Pistons game. The Charlotte game where you never felt like they were going to lose. And then all of a sudden, Terry Rozier, he catches fire and just starts hitting everything possible. And you're like, oh, are you kidding me? Really? You're going to lose to this team? That's where I kind of got last night. And then it's like, oh, wait, no, that's just not a good team. And I would say that Charlotte at least has professionals where, I mean, we can talk all day long about Jaren Jackson Jr., but that team is just a hot mess. And they did get the ability to sign 3 more 10-day contracts today just to try to fill out their roster. So they don't have to go into every game with 7 or 8 players. Absolutely bizarre.
Welcome to the stage, Jaren Jackson in the 10 days.
Yes, exactly.
Oof. He's a fraud, by the way.
I like Santi Aldama, though.
Santi Aldama can play. Yeah, so can Gigi Jackson. Gigi Jackson can hoop.
Yeah, he's going to be really good down the road.
He's the best player with the last name Jackson on that team.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can't stand watching Jaren Jackson play basketball, dude.
Gigi Jackson turned 19 like a month ago.
Jaren Jackson Jr., 22 points, 3 boards, 2 assists. And that's your guy?
Look at his shooting percentage.
Shot 6 of 18 from the floor.
And how many threes?
0 for 4.
33% from the field.
Your reigning defensive player of the year, your starting center for Team USA basketball at the FIBA World Championships, had as many rebounds as he had turnovers last night.
And the guy he was playing against, what did he do?
The guy he was playing against tied his franchise's Sacramento era record with 26 rebounds. He did not have 26 turnovers.
He
didn't have as many rebounds as turnovers.
Sabonis also set in regulation. That was the highest rebound total in the history of the franchise.
Chris Webber in 2001 had 26 in OT.
The Sacramento era. It's not the history of the franchise.
Right. The Sacramento era.
Yeah.
Domantas Sabonis had twice as many offensive rebounds as Jaren Jackson had total rebounds.
Yeah, that's
just
wild.
Kicked his ass. And that's supposed to be a defensive player of the year, all NBA tech. Get out of my face with that.
I know people are like, oh, should he make the All-Star? No, he shouldn't.
He had that one play. He did have that one play. I'll get, you know what? Credit where it's due. Talking about Jaren Jackson here. He did have the one play where he put the ball on the deck and did the like behind the back dribble into the little Euro step for a layup or a dunk. That was nice.
Yeah.
That was a really nice play. And in that moment, you go, oh, I see it. And then he just stinks the rest of the game. No, this is not a Memphis Grizzlies show. So it was Domantas Sabonis last night.
Yep.
20 points, 26 boards, 5 assists, just dominated, 10 of 11 from the field. Down the stretch, is getting the ball. He's getting in the lane. He's scoring. Offensive rebounds, putbacks. But I have a hard time walking away from last night's game and going, hell yeah, 4-game win streak. The Kings are rolling. Because that didn't look like how the Kings have looked lately. And that's where I'm torn. It's like, okay, they had a bad night. They still pulled out a win. You'd rather that than lose that game. But at the same time, you and I talked about this yesterday. The chances that they were going to lose that game were very slim.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, can you come out and just punch a lesser team in the mouth and dominate a game start to finish? And they just didn't. And so that's the yin and the yang of where I'm at right now.
No, I totally get it. And I think that there is a question about like how you do win games. But at the end of the season, when you look at the entire, the totality of the season, and you see that they beat, again, you beat the Memphis Grizzlies by 9. That's all you're going to really worry about. It's even going to log into the category of teams that you held under 100.
Yeah,
it's like at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And I think what you can't do is you can't have a game like this against a much, much lesser team and then come back the next game and expect to play that same way and to come out with a win. And for me, it's like, this can't be the beginning of a trend. You got the Miami Heat, and what they don't need is a South Beach flu.
Mm-hmm.
They need to go in and take a team that's relatively good, but take them serious.
I'm a little worried about the South Beach flu aspect of this. You get a day off in Miami.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wasn't sure, but according to a social media post from G-Man last night, they got into Miami early this morning.
Oh.
And
he was out partying late.
Of course.
At least he was sitting at a very nice restaurant that makes very good food in the middle of the night.
And just enjoying the heck out of it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a little bit of a concern, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, what you have to do is you have to show up and be the team that you should be against the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
And I don't like that you're playing to the level of your competition, but if you're going to play down to the level, play up to the level and play above the level of the Heat and stretch this thing out. I mean, you could get to a 5-game win streak, but also 10 games over 500. That's really a marker that everyone looks for. Yep. This team is really not that bad, but it's these games where you want more out of them that you're not getting it. And I think from top to bottom, outside of Sabonis, it was one of those games where you're just waiting for anyone else to step up. And it just never really happened for anybody. I think the second best player in that game was probably Kevin Huerter. And then Fox had some moments, but 8 of 14 from the field. I'm not sure. Like,
he shot their only 10 free throws.
That's wild.
De'Aaron Fox is the only player who drew a free throw last night.
That's just completely wild.
If here was my big overarching, because like you said, if they go down and beat the heck out of Miami, and Miami struggled, I think they've lost like 7 in a row, something like that. They're struggling. But if they go down and beat the heck out of Miami, let's just say they go win by 20. Or just nobody's going, yeah, but you know what? They only beat Memphis by 9. Like you said, totality of the season. But the big takeaway for me last night was, if the Sacramento Kings and their level of talent entered every game with the mentality that the Memphis Grizzlies have entered games with this year, even with John Morant, after John Morant went down with the injury, you'd have a team that would be a really, really hard out in the West.
Yeah.
But that they continue coming out in these games. And this has been we talked about it in November. It was like, it's still November. Talked about it in December. It's still December. Early January. Okay, well, let's wait till it's January 29th yesterday. It's now January 30th. And we are still talking about, gosh, they just need to be able to turn it on and play with more force. And it's just like, And that's where I'm having a hard time, I think, reconciling. Like, 9 games over is awesome. Chance to get to 10 games over is awesome. Domantas Sabonis has been on an unbelievable tear. They didn't play a great game last night against a bad team. They still pulled out a win. You love all of that. But it's that mindset. It's that intangible like attitude going into a game where Memphis went in last night. They went 7 of 10 from 3 in the first quarter. They defended their asses off for 48 minutes.
Yep.
They just played super freaking hard. And that's what we've been asking for the Kings all year on a just night in, night out basis. And I think last night they didn't have that. Memphis did. And I think that's why this is sticking out so much in my head as a meaningful performance.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end, Kyle, this keeps happening. That's the problem.
Yes.
Like, it's a trend.
Right.
Right. And the fact that they escaped with a win, all right, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
But the value of wins, I guess at some point, they need to matter more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is one that you would chalk up to almost a bad win.
Yeah, in the context of the entire season.
Yes.
Because if they were kicking the heck out of bad teams and just not really having if this was, hey, off night here and there, good, they still got to win. Hey, you take it. But this is, like you said, this is part of a larger trend that I think is a problem at this point.
Yeah, and their talent is too good to lose in some of these games.
Mm-hmm.
Their talent level is too high.
Yeah.
They just can't lose because they have too much talent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into these games, these other games where it's just like they don't show up at all. I don't know.
No.
Like, a win is a win, Kyle.
It sure is. It sure is.
There's a little tiny asterisk next to some of these where you're like, come on.
No, in the scope of last night, it was a win. It is a good win. You get back to 9 games over. That's great. A+. You went into Memphis and you came out with a W. Forget the context. You got the W. That's great.
That's right.
But in the larger context, I think there's a discussion to be had. Let's start diving into this game with 6 quick thoughts with James Ham. That's coming up next on The Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube here on ESPN 1320.
What's going on, everybody? Yeah, I would definitely fear a couple of the players on the Heat. Like, I didn't know they're on a 7-game losing streak.
Let me confirm that's still the case.
No, you're right.
Oh, okay.
I looked. You know what's crazy is that
oh my God, what a dummy.
What?
Nothing. I just clicked on the wrong. I went to go to the Heat's page on Basketball Reference and went back to the Kings page I was just on.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Such an idiot.
Yeah, they won 4 out of 5 with an 8-point loss to OKC in there. And then they've lost not even Toronto, Atlanta, Orlando, Memphis, Boston, the Knicks, and Phoenix. Oof. And not like close. 14? Sorry, math.
I am not going to Sky River on Friday.
24-1, 18-9, 33, 16, and 13 are their margins of defeat.
Oh. And this is all on the heels of the Kyle Lowry trade. Right? The Terry Rozier. Rozier's been there 4 games. Started 3.
I believe I will be at Sky River on Friday.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is there a game that night? Yeah, the
Yes.
Kings play back to back. Yeah, those are tough for me. I cover from home.
It's 4:30 against Indiana. Yeah, Friday, Saturday. Oof. I'll represent well, I promise.
All right. John Poles just trying to. There will not be a Zach LaVine sighting.
Our guy RP, though, he was on it. He had the news before anybody else. Yeah, Grizzlies are rolling, dude. They play hard. They're fun. Yeah, we'll talk about this. A lot of unforced turnovers, too. Just throwing passes away and...
Somebody gives me odds all the time. The odds of Zach LaVine landing in Sacramento next, they have it at a 6.2% chance. It's a plus 1,500.
10 seconds.
Pistons, Lakers, Warriors, Magic, all higher odds.
I am absolutely not going to see Justin Timberlake. Okay, here we go. Yeah, no Zach LaVine trade yet.
No.
We're keeping a close eye on it, though.
No.
Keep it locked to ESPN 1320. Where the moment Zach LaVine is traded, whether to Sacramento or elsewhere, we will have it for you. We'll break it down from all angles. Yikes, man.
No.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I was reading Anthony Slater in The Athletic today, talking about the Warriors trade possibilities.
Got a little dicey up in there, didn't it?
And I mean, kinda. They're in a similar spot, not in a similar spot. With the Kings, we talk about like, well, you can't give up if you need a big piece, you need to give up major assets and are not giving up Keegan Murray. So what realistic asset can they go get with the Warriors are in a little bit the same spot, but like in a worse version of it.
Yeah.
Because the Kings are looking to like ideally shore up their playoff rotation. The Warriors need like starters. And they don't have the assets to go get that or the money to afford that. So they're kind of rock hard place.
I can't believe that they're not already looking to cut salary because we did the math, right? I went to Eric Pincus, the great salary cap guy, Eric Pincus. They shaved $6 million off their cap. It equates to $44 million between tax and salary savings for $6 million. Are you kidding me?
I imagine there will be some kind of move of that nature coming down at some point.
Yes.
But it won't be significant enough to make the Warriors a factor for Sacramento. And let's dive back into the Sacramento Kings win over the Memphis Grizzlies last night with James Ham's 6 quick thoughts.
How'd yesterday's Kings game go? Kings insider James Ham has 6 notes you need to know.
Yeah, he does.
Here are James Ham's 6 quick thoughts.
Kyle, I feel like we need to make these really quick. Domantas Sabonis posted a double-double before halftime, giving him 28 straight, one shy of the season franchise record. I have now been corrected here of 29 set by Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson's real record is 31, but it came over 2 seasons. There's 2 at the next season. So Sabonis now, someone has moved the goalposts. But
wait, I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
Oscar Robertson single season record is 29 consecutive.
Oh, double doubles.
Double doubles.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about rebounds.
No. The record.
Confused.
The record is for double doubles.
Got it.
Is different. Yes. So the record is 31. So he still has a ways to go. Well, 3 games to go for that. But yeah, 26 boards were a career high. Also tied a franchise record, Sacramento era record with Chris Webber, who did that in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good game.
Good player. Really good player. Number 2.
Sabonis kept the Kings within reach. I felt like he was the only one that kind of was playing like to a level.
Mm-hmm.
Fox waited until the 4th quarter to make his presence felt. 23 points, 8 of 14 shooting, 4 assists. Better late than never, but realistically, it wasn't a super engaged performance by De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, he's been better of late. Looked more like MVP caliber Fox that we saw earlier in the year, and then just last night, that's the thing is De'Aaron Fox is good enough that he can have a night where it's not super impactful, but he still goes for what do you finish with? 23, 5 and 4. Like there's a lot of guys that would be a career night. So, I mean, it's not that he's playing poorly. He set such a high standard earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And if the Kings are going to make any kind of noise in the playoffs, De'Aaron Fox has to be better than he's been the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's the long and short of it for me.
He's had 3 or 4 games, which are nice, but there's been plenty of games like this where you're just like, okay, we're not super engaged here. What's going on?
Yeah. Number 3.
Impactful. Switch has been hit by Kevin Huerter. He's figuring out a way, man, to impact the game without it just being scoring. He hit a couple of late shots to get to 17, but 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. He's playing defense. He's engaged. He's fully trying to get better and help this team by doing the dirty work. So kudos to Kevin Huerter.
Yeah. That was a big reason that as he was struggling shooting, it continued to not be a major problem because he was doing other things. And the fact that he was still rebounding, he was still passing, he was still hustling on defense, it made you think the shot was going to come around. He wasn't entirely disengaged from the process of playing basketball.
Yep.
And you see the shot starts falling, and now you're adding that to the what's the word I'm looking for?
Arsenal.
Like the additional impact that he's making, and you have a really, really quality player.
No, I think so too.
Yeah. Number 4.
Ice cold. Harrison Barnes coming off a monster 3 games. He went 0 for 7 from 3 to start the game. I think there's a good thing hiding here, though. He starts 0 for 7. He finishes 2 for 10, which means he kept shooting. And for Harrison Barnes to come out of a game with 5 of 15 from the field when he isn't like lights out, that's kind of a big deal. 4 assists, 3 rebounds. I like the fact that Harrison Barnes didn't just go sit on the bench and get replaced because he wasn't hitting his shots. And, good for him to actually find a way to impact the game.
Yeah. Team high plus 15 for Harrison Barnes last night. And honestly, if you're going to get that kind of, 3 rebounds isn't awesome, but it's better than 1 or none. But you love the 4 assists. If getting him more shots means you're getting him more engaged elsewhere in the game, I think that ultimately makes the Kings better. And you're gonna get a couple of bad shooting nights.
Yeah.
And I think that's just what happened last night.
I think so too. And hey, look, your big man had 26 rebounds.
Yep.
He was on a tear.
Yeah. Number 5. Need a recharge. Malik Monk is struggling. He came into the night averaging 8.8 points per game over his last 4 games on 18% shooting from 3. He had another quiet night, 3 points, 5 assists. And we've seen this from him before, 1 of 4 from the field. We've seen this from Malik before, where he goes through a stretch where he loses his legs or something, but it's also a focus thing because the turnovers, they were bad. Like it looked like he's just trying too hard to figure things out. He might need like a mental break. So yeah, one of those stretches for Malik. Yeah, it's it's so apparent when he's not playing. Like there's just the vibe is so much different, and the energy is so much different. So I don't know if it's a night off or it is just a slump for him, or he was so good earlier in the year that this is just a regression to the mean. I'm not totally sure, but again, as we start to look ahead to the playoffs entering February here, Malik Monk needs to be better.
No, I totally agree. A very, very strange game for Malik. So, All right.
Number 6.
Tall person. JaVale McGee, you know what he looked like, Kyle?
A tall person?
No, when you go to like third grader rec league basketball, but there's one third grader who, for some reason, hit the growth spurt way early and is like 5'7", and everyone else is like 4'2".
Yeah.
And he just stands above everybody and he keeps missing his shots, but the ball keeps coming right back to him. And everyone's trying to jump up and foul him or do something, and they can't do anything because he's a 1.5 feet taller.
Sure.
That's what JaVale McGee looked like. He just looked like he was way taller than everyone else that they put out there. And that's because, again, they have no bench. They have no starters. Yeah. The Memphis Grizzlies were a shell. I thought JaVale played well. He had 8 points, 4 rebounds in 10 minutes. I also think Trey Lyles came in and had a nice performance as well.
Yeah. If you're going to get quality JaVale minutes, like that's such a huge win. And if he was bad last night, maybe they wind up losing. But they got a decent JaVale game when I mean they didn't get great outings from anybody else.
Yeah.
So you love to see that for our guy JaVale. That's big time.
Yeah, I mean it's never perfect, but it worked.
I'm gonna add a 7th quick thought. 19 turnovers.
Oh.
And not even okay. So the turnovers where it's Barnes driving and he tries a little pocket pass to Sabonis and Sabonis isn't quite ready for it and it slips through his hands and hits the deck. Okay, fine. That happens. But the careless cross-court passes that get intercepted and the just throwing the ball out of bounds.
49 seconds into the game, Kevin Huerter threw a ball out of bounds and everyone looked like, what are you talking about? He challenged a call.
Mike Brown did.
Mike Brown, 49 seconds into a game and lost. Kevin Huerter just threw the ball out of bounds.
It doesn't. We talked about it before the game yesterday. It's like, hey, don't turn it over. Don't give this team life. Don't just go execute your offense. And they just did. And it's that carelessness. It's like the Kings are good. Okay, they're not good enough to throw the ball around like that and go beat a team by 20.
No,
like they're just not there. They don't have the talent to go into a game carelessly.
No.
And they haven't been good enough consistently all year to go into a game like that. And that's where I would like to see them go beat the hell out of a bad team one time and just show like, yeah, hey, look, here's the energy, here's the focus, night in, night out. Like we saw it last year. That was the least of my concerns this year, was the Kings taking nights off mentally.
Yes, I fully agree.
And that they go into a game like that, they shoot it 11 of 38 from 3. Ugh. But, it's going to happen. Shots are going to miss. You can do other things to blow a team out when you're not hitting your threes, and turning it over 19 times is not one of them. That's just carelessness and lack of focus.
And shout out to the broadcast, which I don't usually do. They actually went to commercial break, not only missed the determination on whether the call had been overturned, but also they scored a basket as it comes back. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, did I just miss something? And then they had to go back and rewind and say, oh, this is what happened. They didn't get the challenge. And here's the Grizzlies going up 6-2. You're like, what is happening here? What is happening? So yeah, a weird moment.
That's 8 quick thoughts.
14 quick thoughts. James Ham, 15 quick thoughts.
Thanks, everybody. All right. Does the Kings' recent winning streak, last night aside, are we still talking trade at the trade deadline, or should the Kings be standing pat? We'll talk about that next. If you want to get in on that at the Chatty House, it's youtube.com/ESPN1320, twitch.tv/ESPN1320, or you can give us a call, 916-909-1320. That's 916-909-1320. Plenty of Kings coming up here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
Yeah, like JaVale at least put the ball in the basket. I don't know.
This is what it feels like. It feels like he's reached a point that's like, hey, how bad can I do a challenge? You know what? I find it relatable though. What's up, David? Appreciate you, Doc. You know what I find relatable about it though is if I was a head coach, I would be the exact same way.
Yeah.
Like I think Mike Brown challenges just out of spite or emotion.
He does.
I would do the exact same thing.
I actually think in this one too, I think he was really close to calling a timeout because he felt the energy was wrong with his team. Mm-hmm. And so I think he almost just used it like there's no way Kevin Huerter just threw the ball out of bounds. And so he challenged it thinking, oh, we'll get the ball back. But during the challenge, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a, hey, what is going on here moment. And then the challenge was so easy that they couldn't even get back from commercial break in time. Like it was like, oh no, the dude just threw the ball. He just went bonk and threw the ball right out of bounds. It's like, oh, that really happened?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he just threw the ball out of bounds.
Man.
So
That was not great.
The NBA.
I love. Hang on, real quick.
Yeah.
I love this idea that Mike Brown just got tired of his players like arguing with officials and asking for reviews and stuff, and so he just like, here, we're burning it early. Go play now.
Tom L. Yes. Would the Kings trade and pay a player near max money if it's a star? Yeah, I think they would. Like you got to remember that Monty McNair comes from the Daryl Morey tree, and that's what they do. They go find stars, and then they find the Colby Jones, Keon Ellis's, and all that of the world to go fill in and fill up the rest of the roster when you've capped out. And speaking on that, the NBA has just released their projections for the 2024-25 NBA salary cap, and they're actually projecting it lower than it was before. They're projecting it at 141 million as opposed to 142, and there was hope that it would go as high as like 147. So that's pretty big. I don't know what's causing that, but minimum team salary 127 million for next year. The tax level is 172. The first apron's 179, and the second apron's 190.
I can't believe Ben Johnson didn't take that job.
Which
take
job?
a job.
The which job?
It looked like he was in line to be the Washington head coach.
Oh.
And he is staying in Detroit.
Wow, the Warriors have been fielding trade offers on Andrew Wiggins and a potential player-for-player swap. I guess that's part of Slater's.
Yeah, I didn't get all the way through it.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to. Oh, shoot. Okay, hang on. We're back. I'm Kyle. That's James. Thanks for hanging out with us, whether you're listening on the radio, on the free Odyssey app. Maybe you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We appreciate you wherever you are. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will have your Jiffy Lube Fast Break player of the game coming up in just a little bit. I want to talk trade deadline. We're less than 2 weeks out. February 8th is the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 2 weeks out. And I want to talk about that in the context of where the Kings are now versus the last time we were really deep in the trade deadline discussions where it looked like, okay, Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter are for sure out of here. It's just for who. I want to recalibrate that a little bit in light of the last week or 2 weeks of games. But before we do that, I want to let everybody know that starting tomorrow, right here on this very radio station, in the lead up to Kings Heat, and then in the lead up to weekday Kings games, is for now, weekday Kings games, we're going to be doing a little bit of a pregame show. It'll be the Purple and Black pregame show. It'll be me and James looking ahead to that night's Kings matchup, taking you right up to tip-off. So that's going to be a fun thing that we'll be doing. It'll be half an hour before tip-off of each Kings game. Barring if it's a East Coast start or something, it's 4 o'clock start and it's going to run up against D'Lo and Casey. We're not going to preempt D'Lo and Casey for us. But on most nights, it'll be me and James here on ESPN 1320 with the Purple and Black pregame show.
There it is.
Hell yeah. And maybe it expands, but for now we're just it's just weekdays. For now.
Sounds good.
Go sales team.
Go sales team.
Appreciate everybody. So that's going to be happening here on ESPN 1320 as we just kind of try and expand and bring you the best Kings coverage here in Sacramento. And of course, with James Ham here, there's nobody who provides it better. So we thought that it would be best to try and provide more Kings coverage for all of you.
More is better.
More Kings.
More Kings.
More is better unless it's turnovers.
That's true. Unless those turnovers are like cherry turnovers.
Oh, I love.
See, I can always change it to a positive, Kyle.
With an apple turnover,
and even like the peach ones, like the.
I'm not a big peach guy, but I'll rock with a peach like Danish.
Yeah, but like the like Pepperidge Farms one that you like buy and put in the oven, and the peach ones are are so good that it's very surprising.
Yeah, like a peach, like I said, just a straight peach flavored like yogurt. No thanks.
No, I'm not in.
But
although
but
I
you
have
get
been
me
doing
like a peach cobbler.
the peach jamba. I have been doing the peach jamba.
Right, but that's got yeah. But that's got other flavors mixed in it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean on a peach turnover.
Mhm.
Anyways, Tom L in the chatty house brought up a question, and I think it leads us nicely into our discussion here about what the Kings do at the trade deadline now that, because 2 weeks ago when we talked trade, it was okay. It's a package of one of or both Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes and Davion Mitchell, maybe some picks. And what can you go get with that?
Mm-hmm.
But over the last few days, for Harrison Barnes specifically, and over the last couple of weeks for Kevin Huerter, you're starting to see them contribute more, and you're starting to see the Kings look more like last year's Kings. Last night wasn't great, but let's put that aside for a second.
Mm-hmm.
The previous 3 games, the previous 3 wins, they looked like, at least offensively, the Kings from last year. And I think it shifts the conversation a little bit, because now it's not just a matter of, hey, how can you get better? Because now it's, okay, if you're getting this out of Harrison Barnes, and again, last night aside, he didn't shoot it great last night, but an engaged, rebounds, assists, filling the stat sheet Harrison Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting a Kevin Huerter who is going to be a 40+% three-point shooter and who's going to average 14 to 17 a night, and he's going to pull down some rebounds, and he's going to play some good defense.
At least solid defense.
Right.
Yeah.
He's going to try on defense, which is like 60% of the thing. But the question now becomes, okay, how do the Kings improve at those spots? Because when Kevin Huerter wasn't shooting it and Harrison Barnes wasn't giving you anything, it was easy to go, literally anything will help. Literally anything will be better than this. But now I think you have to be a little more calculated. Now that you get better versions of these players, now it can't just be, throw them out the door for anybody. And it makes me think that as we approach the trade deadline here, maybe there's a Kessler Edwards type of move out there where it's a future second round pick or a couple of future seconds for a wing type of player who may or may not contribute. But I don't know if there's this big splash move coming that's going to make them like significantly better than they are when Barnes and Huerter are playing like they have the last couple of weeks.
I mean, I get that, right? I just think that this isn't about a 1-year build. It's not about 1 or 2 years of playoffs. And I think that there is a danger to buying into what's happening right now, because, again, we talked about wins. The win is all that matters in the end, right? But if you're winning and your team still has these glaring weaknesses, you have to be honest about what your team is, and you have to keep resetting what the honesty level is, right? Mm-hmm. So, we talked about it maybe 2 weeks ago. Would you trade Harrison Barnes and Davion Mitchell for Moses Moody and Andrew Wiggins? I mean, maybe you would, but at the same time, I think that deal in itself, you're like, okay, if this is the type of Harrison Barnes, then I probably wouldn't do that deal. First of all, the money is hugely different, right? Like Wiggins is still going to make a whole bunch of money over the next 4 years or 3 years, where Barnes is on a more calculated deal, like 17, 18, 19 million. I'm okay with that, right? Especially if you're getting a young player like Moody that may or may not fit your system moving forward, all that. But like, I don't think that Wiggins makes you better. And because if Harrison Barnes can be this still, and you've found the way to turn the switch back on, like now you just have to figure out how to keep the switch on. You don't have to, you can see that he can still be a very formidable player for you. You still need more though. And so do I change my ideas? Like when I'm looking in the trade machine, have I potentially pulled Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter out of potential trades and seeing if I could still work the same trades with Trey Lyles, Chris Duarte, and Davion Mitchell that I could with the others? Because I think a lot of time we're talking cap filler for most of these deals.
Right.
Like even though Harrison Barnes is under contract for another 2 years, or same with Kevin Huerter, they're realistically in a larger deal. They might be looked at more as cap filler that just to meet salary,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now I'm looking at different ways to get to that salary number to see if there is an alternative route to get there. And I think that you can, like certain deals that you can do in a different way. And so, yeah, I think maybe it does change the way you're thinking about this team and the players that are on it. But you still have to be aggressive with the idea that this is hopefully a window of playoff runs. It's not we got to get back to the playoffs. It's no, we need to build so we can be this team that we want to be like 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So we're a contender next year or the year after. That's what you're looking for.
No doubt. I guess that's where my question comes in and why this is so difficult.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. This is not about, hey, go get. That's why Zach LaVine doesn't make any sense. Maybe Zach LaVine makes you a little, and I don't want to dive into a Zach LaVine conversation. Just
of course.
Follow me. Maybe Zach LaVine makes you a little better this year because it's another score and he can shoot it, and oh man, watch out. But down the road, that handcuffs you big time.
Oh yeah, it crushes you.
Over the next 3 or 4 years, you are not going to be as good as you probably could have been had you not made that move. Okay, great. But on the other hand, I don't look at this team, even with Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes playing this well, I don't look at them and go, yeah, that's a title team. That's a team that's going to go hang with the Denvers and the Bostons and the teams at the top of each conference. I'm leaving out like OKC and Minnesota because I got to see it with them first.
Yeah.
But and Philly, because Philly's got to make the conference finals and the finals first. But I don't see the Kings hanging with those teams just yet. But this is what I brought up earlier, where it's a little bit of the rock and the hard place thing. They have a group where you're going, man, not a tiny change, but a small tweak to this rotation, a small tweak to the starting five or your top 7, maybe get you over the hump and maybe put you in that contender spot. But you can't make that move without dealing a player within that group already. And how much better are you getting? And that's why I think at this deadline, I don't think that move is there.
It might not be, but Kyle, we don't know all the moves that are out there.
No, sure.
And I think that's like, I know that's, no S Sherlock.
Yeah,
it is. But the fact is, like, there could be something that really does make this team better.
Mm-hmm.
And they're weighing the damage it will do short term to get to the long term.
Yeah.
And it's a very difficult thing. Like swapping out, again, like just the hypothetical, swapping out Harrison Barnes and Davion Mitchell for and a first round pick for Jeremy Grant.
Sure.
That makes you better. Does it make you a contender? It makes you much better. It does. It gives you something that you don't have right now, which is that long athletic guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is it the thing that puts you way over the top? And now you're investing in a 29-year-old. What you're basically doing is running it back, but with like one piece swapped out.
Yeah, a little better version of what you're going to get at Harrison Barnes.
Exactly. So if that deal, like if it is there, then you start weighing the other things. Because again, I think we can put Harrison Barnes, if this is who Harrison Barnes is, right? We can put him in a bucket that's a group of similar players, and you can all rank them how you want. But the fact is, they're all like tier 3 power forward / small forwards, right? So the Kyle Kuzmas, the Jeremy Grants, the Andrew Wiggins.
Sure.
Like Harrison Barnes fits into that category.
Exactly.
Like whether you love him or not, he does. He fits into that category. This
version of Harrison Barnes that we've seen the last 4 games.
Well, that and the version of Harrison Barnes that we've seen for the last 5 years in Sacramento.
Sure.
He's just a little bit older than all of these guys, but he still fits into that same category. And now it's like, okay, how much better am I getting? And why I sit here and I don't like the idea of trading a guy like Trey Lyles. I think Trey Lyles should be in Sacramento,
no doubt,
for a while. But at $8 million, and if I can stack him and a couple other players, and I can go get one of those other, let's say you can somehow get Jeremy Grant. Let's say that the money works with Davion and Chris Duarte, and then you got to throw in one more minimum scale guy, and along with Trey Lyles, and you can go get Jeremy Grant without trading Harrison Barnes. Now I do two things. Number one, I get better in my starting lineup. Number two, Harrison Barnes is a better player than Trey Lyles. I get better in two positions at one time with one move. And so those are the things I might be looking at. So I'm not playing on the peripheral. I don't think you can go out there and find a player that's going to be, maybe if like Caruso becomes available and you're able to go get Caruso and swap him in. But again, Caruso for me is very similar to a Matisse Thybulle trade or the Mason Plumlee trades that I was talking about last year. That's still like you might say he's a little bit better than a peripheral, but he's got to be better than the guys you have on the court.
Those are the type of moves that an already fringe title contender gets them over the top. I think the Kings are shy
not
of that.
They're the one step below that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's an interesting discussion because you have to balance so many things. Like what would taking Harrison Barnes out of your locker room mean?
Yeah.
What would that, for the rest of the guys, how much damage could you do in that situation? And I'm not making a move because of that. If there's a trade out there that requires Harrison Barnes is put in it, that's the reality of the business. It is he will be 32 in the coming months. Like this is the way the game works and what you have to do if you're a franchise. You have to maximize your talent while you have it. And you need to bail on that talent when there becomes a point where you've gone to a different age, like with the rest of the players.
Yeah.
Like your core is a different age. And, can Harrison Barnes play out the entirety of his contract? Sure, but I would not bet on that at all.
No.
I just wouldn't. In my time covering the team, there's been one player with a 3-year or longer contract to play out the entirety of the contract. I asked you this one another time. You remember who it was?
I don't.
Kosta Koufis.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's the only player to play out a 3-year free agency deal or longer and actually stick the whole time.
That's so wild. One of the things that when we talk trade deadline and we talk what do the Kings need or not need, I go back to last night's Memphis game. And I said earlier that if the Kings approached every game the way this Memphis Grizzlies team approaches every game, where I hate you, but let's just, they've got that dog in them. Like there is just like, dude, they are going to scrap, they are going to claw, and that's just kind of the Grizzlies ethos and has been for 2 decades. But that's when we talk trade deadline and you talk a player like Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant's got some dog in him. Yeah. Jeremy Grant is going to play hard on defense, and he is going to go get you a bucket if you need it on offense, but he can also knock it down from the court. And that's where, when Jeremy Grant, like in a vacuum, you go, does he make you that much better? Like, probably not. But if he brings that attitude to the team a little bit and makes it so your nights in Memphis aren't like, oh boy, they might lose this one, or makes it so you're not losing randomly to Charlotte or losing to a shorthanded Portland team, or pick your favorite bad Kings loss of the year. If he can turn a couple of those games around, that I think exceeds what he brings just on the court from a talent perspective, if that makes sense. I hope I'm articulating that correctly.
No, I think I can even articulate it in a different way that might make sense. When you look at Harrison Barnes, you think he's 6'6", 6'7", right? He's 6'8". When you think of Jeremy Grant, you think he's 6'9", maybe 6'10".
Yeah.
He's 6'7".
Yeah, it's a great point. That's a great point.
One guy plays much bigger than he is. And like his visually, you think, oh my gosh, he's
legit thought he was 6'10".
No, he's 6'7" with a 7'3" wingspan.
That's wild.
And so I think that's what you're talking about. Like,
yes,
there's just a player that you like. It's always about like the noisy points of Malik Monk versus the methodical points of Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles can have 16 points in a game and you think, okay, Trey Lyles was a big reason they won this game. But you look up and you're like, when did he get to 16?
Yeah.
And then Malik Monk's at 12 and you're like, I remember every single one of those.
Yeah.
That guy was crazy. It's
like
he had 12 points. The other guy had 16. The other guy was more impactful than your guy. but it's the way that they do it. And I think that there is like this really interesting way that we view players and just by visually watching them. So like, look, there's a tall task here to improve this team and to make it much better and to figure out ways to keep building and building. And, we talked about it during the break, the NBA, this is actually a big deal. The NBA just came out with their projections for NBA salary cap for next season, and it's at 141 million, which a lot of people thought it was projected at 142, which is based off of like a whole bunch of
TV
factors.
rights deals, et cetera.
Well, but also like basketball related income, right? So the TV rights deal is usually pretty square. It is what it is. We know what it is.
Right.
But like things like jersey sales or streaming or ticket sales or like all that stuff, it goes into it, right? So the salary cap actually goes down to 141 from 142. But most people were projecting the cap to potentially go up to 145 or even 147.
Oof.
And so there is like this big, like today, it should be like, oh no, because not only does the salary cap drop by $1 million, but also the luxury tax doesn't go up.
Right.
And so that's a big deal as well. So if it's set at 172, where it could have been like 177 or 170,
that's a big deal.
That's a whole other player that you're fitting in. It's a really big deal. You know what just happened to the Warriors? They just like their next season got even uglier.
Yeah.
Like their salary cap situation for next season, it got worse. And so that it's a big deal, especially when you're looking at a free agent like Malik Monk. Like Malik Monk, teams around the league thought, well, maybe I have an extra 3 or 4 million on top of this figure. That's gone now. There are now teams with less cap space than there were the day before.
Dang.
And so I think all of this plays into like a larger thing that when you are building a team, it just can't be, I got to go out and get every single high-end player, because we've seen what happened with the Warriors, where eventually even the like for the Kings, the De'Aaron Foxes of the world all of a sudden go from a $7 million player to a $27 million player in 1 year. And then next thing you know, he's up to a $32 or $35 million player. Then the next contract is going to kick in, and he's going to get up to like $70 million player at some point. Right. There's all of these things that are projecting out. Well, that's what's happened to the Warriors. The reason why the Warriors is not because they were ridiculously silly in free agency, is that they kept paying their own talent to, and the Kings still have that. They still have a guy named Keegan Murray that's going to get paid. And then even in a way, Malik Monk is their own talent. He's a guy that had not found success in other stops.
Yeah.
He finds success here. And now how do you pay that talent? And so again, you can't whiteboard this thing out for February 8th, 2024. It's not the way it goes. You have to project everything. You have to see how all of these puzzle pieces fit in together. And I actually think it's why the Kings right now have been shopping for these guys that are locked up for 3 or 4 years. The Kyle Kuzmas, the Jeremy Grants, because they're with those trades comes an understanding of what the future is. You aren't just trading for this year. You're trading for, you're acquiring a contract as well, which is why Kevin Huerter was such a valuable piece when you trade for him and he's starting a 4-year 65. Like, you understand what your budget is now. And so I think the Kings are trying to figure out what their budget is moving forward, but they also, to have these pieces that are solidified, that are budgeted pieces, that's a big deal, because like the one wild card going into this offseason is that you have no idea what someone's going to offer Malik Monk.
Sure.
But the other guys are all locked into place.
So would you, how do I put this? Okay. At the risk of this coming off the wrong way, and we'll figure it out then. Would you say then the Kings' goal is not to win a title this year?
No, I think that their goal, like if it works out that they win a title, sure.
Yeah.
But you have to make the moves to, first of all, I think you had to give this team an opportunity to show you what they had in a second year, right? The run it back idea.
Yeah. I was mostly on board with that.
Okay. And then midway through the season, they didn't look like the run it back team. Like up to the first 41 games, they did not look like the run it back team. They looked like a totally different version of the previous team. Game 41, 42, 43, 44. This looks like the run it back team. but with a better Keegan Murray. That's what it looks like. And so you're starting to like try to wrap your brain around what it is that you have. And I think it's so incredibly difficult for Mike Brown as a coach, but also Monty McNair.
Yeah.
Because you aren't just playing like trade machine. You're swapping out individual players that matter, that mean something to a coach, that means something to other players. Every piece has its value in some way.
Yeah.
Whether it's positive or negative. And then you got to figure out, how do I replace these with pieces that will fit?
Yeah.
And not have like the Iman Shumpert effect.
Yeah.
Where your team goes from way up here to like completely crumbles when they lose a guy who basically was barely playing, but it meant something to the back end of the team, the spirit of the team.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like your question, whether they're playing for a championship. No, if they can make a deal that makes them a championship contender,
right?
Heck yeah, you make that deal.
Sure.
No question.
But is that deal out there? And that's
where we get back to the unknown.
Right. And that
deal might be out there. We just haven't heard it yet.
Yeah. And that's where, so every team is trying to thread the needle of, and you get your teams like Boston where your core is dynamite and locked in and you're going to contend for a title every year. Right. But you're also trying to map out, okay, what is the future? How do you continue contending for titles down the road?
Yeah.
And the Kings are trying to ostensibly do that same thing. They're trying to contend now while also figuring out how to contend for titles down the road. And typically my thought process on this is, if you can nuke your next 10 years for a championship today, do it. I say that every time, but with the Kings specifically, I don't know that trade is out there, because that earth-shattering deal means like Keegan Murray's out of here. Like, he would have to be a centerpiece of a deal like that. And I don't think that deal is on the table that is also going to make the Kings a championship contender this year.
Okay, so I'm going to flip it around before we go to break. If you were to nuke this season, but give yourself an opportunity to win multiple championships down the road, would you do that? Because it's just the opposite of what you're thinking. And I think yes. If you had to give up this season today, and it required you to make a 4-for-1 swap that you knew that there was a good chance you weren't going to be able to recover from, but it gave you the centerpiece that you needed to go along with Fox, Sabonis, Keegan Murray, then heck yeah, you do it. Right? I mean, because that deal's out there. But I'll tell you what it would be after the break.
We're going. I recorded 0 seconds of that segment.
Oh no. I don't know what that means.
That's super annoying.
That means you got to go back and record it.
Yeah. I got to go grab the recording. All right. And I have to go oh my goodness. What a mess. What a disaster. Okay, so this is going to go here. Okay. I'll be right back.
All right.
Talk to the people.
Hello, everybody. Wow. Here's a headline on ESPN. Steelers to hire Arthur Smith as OC, sources say. What's going on, everybody? Oh, no. Rajon Rondo arrested on drug and gun charges in Indiana. Former NBA point guard, Kings legend, Rajon Rondo, was arrested over the weekend for unlawful possession of a firearm, drug paraphernalia, and marijuana, all misdemeanor charges. Citing records for a spokesman for the Indiana State Police, Rondo, 37, was pulled over in Indiana's Jackson County on Sunday afternoon because of a traffic violation when a trooper smelled marijuana. ISP spokesman Sergeant Stephen Wheels told the TV station. Found a gun and drug paraphernalia. He posted bond and was released. He was not allowed to possess a firearm because he had a no contact order against him. That's not good. I'm going through the Rondo arrest.
What happened?
Rondo was arrested on
10 seconds.
Gun and drug charges.
Yikes. 5 seconds is illegal. Here we go. Hey, welcome back in. Hour number 2. I'm Kyle. That's James. We're taking you right up to noon here on ESPN 1320. Then D'Lo and KC will take over. I believe D'Lo will be joining us in the final segment. We'll talk to him about some of this trade stuff we've been going over today. So heading into this segment, you said you were going to nuke the Kings season with the hopes of building out a championship window over the next 3 or 4 years and beyond. Before we do that, I want to talk about the 49ers real quick.
Yeah.
As the Super Bowl preview that is going to take most of the next 2 weeks begins. 49ers and Chiefs, of course, facing off on February 11th at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Some injury news for both teams. So Charles Omenihu, former 49ers defensive end, who signed with the Chiefs, versatile player, really good defensive lineman. He has torn his ACL. That happened in the AFC title game. He will not play in the Super Bowl, of course. So that really stinks for him. Really good player, and a guy I thought the 49ers would definitely try and keep around. But he got a bag in free agency from the Chiefs. Had a nice year, but his season is over. For the 49ers, it actually looks like they're going to be pretty healthy going into the Super Bowl. So Kyle Shanahan yesterday in a conference call with reporters said that Ambry Thomas is day-to-day with an ankle injury, starting corner for the Niners, and then tight end George Kittle is dealing with a toe injury. He is also day-to-day, given that they have 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. My assumption is both guys will play. Interestingly, though, nothing on Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's wild.
But Shanahan also didn't even mention McCaffrey in his post-game press conference the other day. He had to be asked about him. If you missed it, McCaffrey on his 25-yard run that set up the game-winning touchdown by Elijah Mitchell, he went down like on his head. Like he bounced on his head as he went to the ground.
Yeah, even shoulder. I was worried shoulder and head.
Yeah,
like, it looked like a big fall. He way up in the air. It came down like
yeah, really awkward landing. And he kind of got up slow, and you could see. And so he left the game. Turns out it was a shoulder stinger. The reason he did not come back into the game was because he was worried about holding the football and whether with the stinger in his shoulder, he'd be able to grip the ball in a spot where the Niners needed to just run out the clock.
Yeah.
So that's why he didn't come back into the game. He was cleared to play though.
Oof.
Shanahan didn't bring it up on Sunday night, didn't bring it up at all yesterday. So my assumption is it's no longer a problem and Christian McCaffrey's good to go.
Yeah. It seems like it's not an issue.
Yeah.
That's crazy that you're walking in mostly healthy.
It's,
I mean, you need to bubble wrap these guys for the next week and a half.
Yeah, they got a couple days off coming up, and then they'll start preparations. But yeah, the health is just such a major thing going into a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And outside of Talanoa Hufanga, I believe, and maybe I'm missing something major, but I believe the Niners will have 21 of their 22 starters
from opening
night.
night.
Yeah, opening day.
That's wild.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Now that
going
can
through it in my
change.
head.
That can change really quickly. Like, you know, you can have a player go down in the first minute of a game, and next thing you know, it's totally different. Yeah. So yeah,
Going into the
but
game
still,
though,
yeah,
they're pretty set. And given what like Deebo Samuel with the shoulder injury against the Packers, that could have been a mess where he's missing multiple weeks. He turned out fine, played against the Lions, came out of the game healthy. If you're San Francisco, man, I know we've talked about this a million times, but the path was there to get there, and now they're there. And the injury stuff that has plagued them in years past and in Super Bowls past is not there. This is as good of a shot as they've had, except for the fact that they're facing Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Steve Spagnuolo, and the Kansas City Chiefs.
yeah, you're running out of excuses.
Right? And frankly, like just top to bottom roster wise, the Niners are better, but the Chiefs they definitely have the better defensive coordinator. They definitely have the better quarterback, and they may have the better coach.
Yeah,
And that might just be too much for San Francisco to overcome.
Yeah, it might be, but I mean, I what I really respect about what I've seen from Kansas City this year is that as much as Patrick Mahomes tried to keep this thing on the rails with his wide receivers like failing miserably the entire year, the defense has been so good, and even in the Ravens game, they're such sure tacklers, man. You just don't get the run after the catch. Like it is, you catch the ball, somebody's there, they make a stop. Like that's where the 49ers have to break them. You have to break a couple of big ones where you start to put that little seed of doubt in their head about tackling.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, which again, that's happened to the Niners like 3 times this season, where they mystically walk into a game and just can't tackle anybody. It happened in the first half against the Lions. You just can't tackle
that first
anybody.
touchdown was insane.
Yeah, where
the Lions' first touchdown, where Jamison Williams.
Yeah, was it Lenore that ran up and then
I don't know what it was.
Oh,
I don't know what it was.
2-hand touch. Like, what are we doing here? Like, don't hit somebody.
It was really bad.
Yeah, I mean they
eventually started getting downhill and hitting.
Yeah, the broken
it took a minute.
tackles. It did, but you can remember back to a few games, especially like the Bengals game, where they just didn't tackle anybody.
That entire 3-game stretch, Cleveland, Minnesota, and Cincinnati, where they lost all 3, just couldn't get anybody on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's going to wind up being, and I have to watch some more things, and I'll read some more and listen to people smarter than me, but I think it's going to wind up being my initial thought here, more than a week and a half out, is that it is going to be a way more like old school smash mouth, each team trying to bludgeon the other one type of game.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's going to be fun.
I think it is. And if that's the way this game goes, I like the Niners' weapons a lot better.
Yeah, if they can stay in a game script where they are running the ball effectively, I do too.
Yeah.
But if it comes down to, hey, Chiefs are up 14-0, and now you have to have Brock Purdy throwing against the Steve Spagnuolo defense that was top 5 in everything, 10 in everything this year. Man.
I also, just the way that, like, you never want to count out Mahomes in that situation. And that's what they've done all season long. They basically have stayed in games on using their defense and Pacheco.
Yeah.
And then it's like, at some point, Patrick, we need you to make like 1 or 2 plays that gets us the points we need to just beat them. Like, I don't know how many times they've covered, but I'm going to guess it's not very many.
And how many, and to that point, and just to kind of the Mahomes inevitability aspect of this, I've got 3 games off the top of my head where Mahomes made the plays and the Chiefs wide receivers didn't.
Oh, yeah.
There was MVS in the Philly game.
Yep. There
was the Buffalo game with the lateral to Kadarius Toney, but he was offsides.
Okay.
And was it Packers game where there was the pass interference that didn't get called?
Oh, yeah. I think
it was MVS again.
Yeah. Valdez-Scantling again, but you forget game 1 they lose to the Lions because
it's a great one.
Kadarius Toney like literally just gave the team the Lions the ball.
Yeah, and
like
then
twice.
dropped what would have been a huge first down later. Yeah, so that it's not a Patrick Mahomes thing, man, and they've just somehow plugged away and figured it out.
No, this team, that team
that's
easily
a scary ass football team, dude.
They could have been 3-4 games better than they were. I mean,
But
that's
really
weird
easily.
to say that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Niners could have been 3 games better than they were. Like they could have, if they kicked a field goal against the Browns, they could have won that game, right? And then the next game we had the snafus against the Vikings, the last play at halftime, and then you have the again missed field goals. And then we get to the end of the season. If you play all your guys, you probably are going to beat the Rams.
Yeah,
That's my opinion.
I think I'm. Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm torn on the Browns one because I agree. Like Jake Moody makes a kick and they're good.
Yeah.
But Jake Moody hasn't been a reliable kicker all year, and the Niners were terrible. I don't think the Niners deserve necessarily to win that game.
No,
like they could have, but the Vikings game for sure got a little sideways on it. But they just got diced by Kirk Cousins, man. They got flambéed, and then Kirk Cousins made plays and Brock Purdy didn't. Is what that came down to, and they just got smoked by Cincinnati. So,
okay,
yeah.
No,
I'll give you one or two.
All right,
I'm not giving you 3 or 4. I can't go that far.
I don't know.
A loss is a loss, right?
Yeah, a loss is a loss. I agree. But the 49ers feel more like a 14-3 team than what do they finish? 12-5?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
I'll buy that. But I think the Chiefs do too.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs record was nowhere near what what was it? 11? Yeah. 11-6.
I know there are people in the chatty house, and I'm sure people listening and people across America who are not excited to hear about Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes and Taylor Swift and the Chiefs and Niners and all that. I'm certain there are people who don't give a damn. Ramsey in the chatty house said he's not watching. He's out.
Oh, wow.
He's going to go work that day. It's like, shout out, do your thing.
Okay.
But for me, I'm fascinated just as a football fan to see what it looks like, because I think the two right teams are there. But I want to talk Super Bowl conspiracy theories at some point. We don't have to do it right now because we have to go to a break.
Yeah.
But this whole everything in the NFL is a conspiracy needs to go to hell.
I hear you.
I'm really, really annoyed by it. And we're, like I said, still a week and a half plus from kickoff. All right. How is James going to nuke the Kings season?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next. How the Kings could punt on this year to maximize their chances to win a championship in the coming years. We'll talk about what that move is next on ESPN 1320 Sacramento Sports Leader.
Ooh. Oh my goodness. They said the Lions offensive coordinator wanted $15 million?
Whew! Good for him, man.
Wow.
Know yourself, know your worth. Love it for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, if that's what it was, I heard some other stuff on those coaching searches in Seattle and Washington.
Oh, okay.
That maybe it wasn't necessarily Ben Johnson's decision.
Oh, okay.
But if man, if he wanted $15 million a year, then, and dude, I love that, because if he's having a great time being the Lions offensive coordinator, he's 37 years old. This is not going to be the last hiring cycle that he's going to be a commodity. If he's having a great time with those guys in Detroit and loves coaching under Dan Campbell, and that's what he wants to do, and he's going to make his couple of million or whatever he makes, maybe he gets a little raise from the Lions for sticking around.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, dude, be like, I could go to Washington, I could go to Seattle, but not unless it's for this price.
And where's Eric Bieniemy going to end up?
He might wind up in Washington now.
We thought that, right?
That's I thought it was a layup, but apparently not.
I would give a bunch of money if I'm Kansas City to bring him back. Like, make him the heir apparent. How long does Andy Reid do this?
Man, as long as Patrick Mahomes is playing, I would guess.
Yeah. Well, really? Mahomes got another decade in him.
Yeah. Andy Reid might wind up just being like, as we all freaked out about Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Andy Reid might just wind up in 30 years being the coach that everybody looks at from this generation.
He's only 28. Mahomes
Andy
got
Reid?
another. No. Oh. No, Andy Reid is 65, almost 66. Yeah, he's not going to.
How old is Belichick?
71 going on 72.
So Andy Reid's 6 years.
I don't know.
I don't either.
How long do old ball coaches last?
Was it Don Shula who coached until he was like 85?
He wasn't that. Oh, maybe he was older. He wasn't that old.
Is it Marv Levy?
Oh, Marv Levy was 79, I think. That's a good one there.
He's born in 25, and his last year is he's 75. His last year as head coach.
Who, Marv?
Oh, we're back. Yeah, we're fine. Everything's fine.
Oh, I love it. You just brought up Marv Levy, right?
Yeah, we were a little bit late coming back because we were deep in a Marv Levy rabbit hole.
Okay, so Marv Levy, he coached until he was 72 in 1997 was his final year at 72.
72. Okay.
Right?
Math,
but then he
am I
was
right?
an executive for another 10 years. So until he was in his 80s. And at this point, Marv is 98 years old.
Still kicking.
Still kicking.
Good for him.
Good old ball coach right there. Incredible.
He looks in his profile photo on Wikipedia. Marv Levy looks like fourth place at a Vin Scully lookalike competition.
Okay. That's fine.
That's where I land.
Now do Andy Reid. What does Andy Reid look like from his Pro Football Reference page?
Oh, that I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, Don Shula was only 65 when he retired.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah, but the Dolphins said like they couldn't get over the hump.
Oh, yeah. He was there for
yeah.
25 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think there are other coaches that we're missing that coached way later than we think.
Yeah, I'm going to be checked out of the rest of the show Googling this.
All right. I want to say Tom Landry looked like he was older. But
Joe Gibbs came back to coach in 2004 to 2007. Yeah, he was 64 to 67. Joe Gibbs only 83 right now. Wasn't as old as I thought he was.
Joe Gibbs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's been highly successful as a NASCAR owner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's doing all right.
He has done all right for himself.
Can I talk about Super Bowl conspiracies real quick?
Before we get into...
Yeah, before you nuke the King season. Stop. All right? The Super Bowl logo color thing was stupid. It was always stupid. Like, oh, look, the Super Bowl color was the teams that played in the Super Bowl look, the Eagles. That was teal. It was Dolphins/Jags colors. And people went, look, it's green like the Eagles. No, it's not. Not even close. And people were like earnestly, like they came up with this, all these videos on TikTok and Instagram and wherever, like, hey, you want to know the conspiracy theory that's actually true? The NFL is rigged. Here's why. Like, you honestly think if the NFL went through all of the work that it would take, all of the people involved, all of the things that they would need to have covered up, all of the things, you think all of the people involved in that and they would make it as obvious as putting the colors on the damn Super Bowl logo? Think for 3 seconds.
Kyle, I think that a lot of, even like Ravens fans, they're probably like, did you see the penalties? Okay, but here's the problem that you have with that. During like the early stage of the game, they literally talked about the two broadcasters about how the Ravens in the meetings with the broadcasters told them very specifically that they don't think Patrick Mahomes pays enough for his running attempts. That every time he runs, they're going to hit him. They're going to crush him. And then you get called for a bunch of late hits. That's exactly like
it is literally what happened.
They telegraphed it. Like,
and this idea that, oh, hey, the NFL is rigged and they rigged it so Taylor Swift would be front and center at the Super Bowl. Bro, the Chiefs have been to 4 of the last 6 Super Bowls. They've been to 6 consecutive NFC title games. This is Patrick freaking Mahomes and Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and one of the best defenses in the league. They were there all year. They have been good all year. We sat here and talked about, you know what? I'm not going to count out the Chiefs just yet. Like, those guys can figure it out. And what did they do? They snuck out a couple of playoff wins, and now they're in the Super Bowl. You know why? Because they're good.
They've been there.
This wasn't Taylor Swift started dating, I don't know, Kyler Murray, and all of a sudden the Arizona Cardinals are in the Super Bowl on a bunch of bad calls that got him to 13 wins.
I'm now thinking of Taylor Swift. Like,
5'11" Taylor Swift and 5'7" Kyler Murray. Yeah. Right. Like, that's not what happened here. This is so what I just don't understand why everything needs to be the NFL's rigged. It's a conspiracy. Like, no, man, two of the 5 best teams in the league are in the Super Bowl. Whoa.
Yeah.
What a conspiracy.
The Cowboys folded. So the Niners,
do you know how stupid people are? And I'm not talking about conspiracy theorists. Do you know how stupid people are? People in general, myself included, are pretty dumb. Do you know how many things it would take to rig the NFL as intricately as people think it is rigged? So many. That would have leaked by now from more than Arian Foster. All right. That would be front page national news. Do you know how many people would stand to lose money? Do you know how many people would stand to lose jobs and livelihoods if that came out? Do you know how many people would be sued into oblivion? And you think that that's just how people are operating? You think people are balancing their life fortunes on a rigged sports league? Oh,
that's hilarious.
It's the dumbest corner of the internet.
I know people. What was the tweet that someone put out? Now we know why Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce, because he just got like a $70,000 bonus to make the Super Bowl.
That's what it was.
It's like,
she's in it for the money.
She's in it for the money. A billionaire is in it for like what amounts to like one sleeve of one of her jackets.
Right. One of the 2 most famous people in the world right now. Yeah, she's dating Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs for that Super Bowl bonus, baby. Sorry, I needed to get that off my chest. You want to nuke the King season?
Yeah.
How do we do that? So hang on, let me set this up.
Okay,
let me set it up. So we were talking about earlier the trade deadline and whether the Kings, do you go? Is there an all-in type of move? Do you do that this year? Are they trying, very earnestly to win a title this year? Like, would they make a move that they think can put them over the hump? And you more or less said, no, they're not going to jeopardize their future for some kind of weird all-in move this year. But then you looked at it the other way. Would they punt this year to try and go all in ostensibly on the next 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
What move is that?
Well,
what does that look like?
I mean, we always talk about the $17 million owed Harrison Barnes and the $17-18 million contract of Kevin Huerter, which now puts you up to 35. And in order to get up to 50, you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a world in which you make a move with a team that is looking to bolster their roster, but might have somebody who's injured or an aging star, or just a player who's not ready yet. And you think that player is going to be the guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Malik Monk. that you give up. It is. It's the all-in move. There are teams out there that could look at Malik Monk and say, okay, I think that could help me. And a package that includes Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes. Now, like, you know, like, I'm not talking about the move to go get Jeremy Grant. I'm not talking about the move to go get Kyle Kuzma. But there might be a team out there that says, okay, I think Monk can get me over the top this year with some of these other pieces, and I'm willing to give up this player to go do that. There could also be another team that is trying to build out a roster and says, I want Monk as my guy, and I don't have a bunch of cap space for next season, but I want him now. And I think that what that would impact the Kings would be greatly. Like, if you traded Malik Monk and Harrison Barnes,
my God,
I don't think this team recovers like for the rest of this season.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how big that player is that's coming in. I don't see it.
I don't either. I am firmly in the Malik Monk as their most important player camp.
Okay. And I don't disagree, but that's how you
right. That's the nature of the move.
That's how you could nuke this season. And hey, look, I'm not saying do that. I'm saying that there is a move out there. I guarantee you that a team that wants Malik Monk. I mean, you're going up against the Miami Heat coming up here. You don't think Malik Monk changes the calculus for the Miami Heat? Of course he does.
Is he not just Miami Heat specifically? Is he not a little redundant with Terry Rozier and Tyler Hero?
No, he's just a much better version at a much lower cost than some of the guys that you have there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, but I'm not saying that's the only team. Like, could the Knicks use a Malik Monk? Could, name that team? And teams have asked. Toronto, from what we've heard, asked about Malik Monk.
Sure.
But here's the thing that you could do, just so people, if someone's going all in this season and they're trying to do something crazy, they could buy Malik Monk right now. And then Malik Monk could come back to Sacramento and sign as a, sign a mid-level exception, which would be very difficult to get him to sign, but, making 12 million, 13 million bucks in a year. But I'm just saying, like, there are moves out there where you could tear this thing down a bit, but retain the main three pieces and go get that fourth piece that you think can be the game changer for the next 5-8 years.
We have to break. I have a question on this. Let's continue talking about it next. Damian Barling, I believe, of D'Lo and KC will be in for the handoff. We will have that for you as well. And if you missed our small announcement earlier, we will have that for you. And we'll also have your Jiffy Lube Fast Break Player of the Game. Tons coming up in the final segment. Don't go anywhere. It's ESPN 1320.
Hey, can you go to just me and you? Kyle? Can you go to just me and you?
What?
Can you go to just me and you for a sec so I can tell you something? Or do you not have that capability?
Can I?
I'm gonna run with this, but
I don't. Can you text it to me?
Yeah.
I'm sure I do somehow. I just don't know for sure.
I'm gonna send you a text like we're not going with this.
Okay, got it. So don't read it out loud.
Yes.
Take my glasses off so people can't see the reflection.
It's not trade related.
It is not.
That was, I just copied and pasted that from somebody.
Mui and Terrasante.
Yeah.
Let me see. I have to text Jesse. Unrelated to this. Nope, not Jesse Agler. Shout out to Jesse Agler, though. Big fan.
I don't think I know who that is.
Padres radio guy.
Okay.
During baseball season, we'll get him on for a random Padres Giants series.
All right. Except for nobody gives a bleep about. No. I'm with you.
I love everybody in the chatty house trying to guess what it is.
Oh, I know.
Is it Kings related? What do you think? It's up to you. It's your headcanon.
I ain't saying bleep about bleep. The A's mess is getting out of control. There are a bunch of articles today about how it's getting out of control.
Yeah, if you haven't read Jeff Passan on it,
it's kind of stuff that's been floating around, right? I don't know.
The short of it is the A's were supposed to have a home for beyond 2024 locked down by December and then by mid-January. And now it's the end of January and they still don't have that locked down even a little bit. And you have Jeff Passan and Ken Rosenthal both writing scathing pieces about the A's. 90 seconds.
I wonder if Major League Baseball has something to do with that.
Which
might be a good thing, Kyle. I think we're going to hear this pretty quickly. I'm going to venture here a guess, Kyle, very quickly because of all this, that the A's will play 25 through 27 in Sacramento.
Yeah, it seems like Sacramento or
Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
I don't buy it because I think they can negotiate a television deal with NBC.
Yeah. But if they go to Salt Lake City, they are in Rockies and what other
somebody's territory.
Rockies and Diamondbacks?
I would love it if the Giants just blocked them again. Said, "Oh no, we own Sacramento market as well." Like Russia.
This is 15 seconds. I'm telling you now because we're not going to panic.
"15 seconds.
All right, back here. Final segment. D'Lo and KC coming up about 27 minutes. One of them will be in here, though, for the handoff.
One
We'll
or the
talk
other.
Kings.
We have no idea.
Kings trade stuff with them. So we were talking about in the last segment this very hypothetical move, just exploring the space of the trade deadline, where we have always been so focused on like, hey, can the Kings get over the hump for this year? And James, you posed the idea of like, well, there's a reverse to that too. There's two sides to every coin.
Yeah.
And can you more or less scrap this year with the hope of expanding your window over the next 4 or 5? And I love that idea. So you mentioned the idea of, hey, maybe they could move Malik Monk and other pieces for something that makes you better. Is the goal of that move just freeing up space? Or is the goal of that move to bring in a player? And what type of player would you be eyeing in a deal like that? Yeah. Is that where like Lauri Markkanen comes in?
Well, no, because like Utah's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and Utah doesn't need a guard.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that there might be a team out there that looks at what the Kings have done and what Malik Monk means to the Kings and, you know, sort of where you're going with him. And they think, okay, if I had that guy on my team, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say Minnesota says, okay, we think the missing piece to take us from a team that's number one in the West, but realistically, we might not be a title contender, to a potential title contender. Like, what would that look like? Mm-hmm. And like, would trading McDaniel to the Kings, like, how much does that upset you, whatever it is that you're doing, and in order to give you that boost to try to get you over the top, mm-hmm. and giving up the Kings, giving up Malik Monk and something else.
Sure.
Right. So like, I think that there are moves out there, like whether it's Boston or Milwaukee or Philadelphia, you know, like there's all these teams that feel like, okay, I'm in the running. Mm-hmm. Like I'm close, but what would get me like over the top? What would make me a contender or maybe be the move that pushed me way in. And like a bunch of these teams, they have players that you're looking at that, okay, maybe there's someone there that's hiding that just is too young for what they're doing today, or that doesn't, like, maybe they have another piece that they could start instead. But Monk would give them like the ammunition they need to go over the top. So again, the Kings take a step back and they go, okay, we're still going to fight for a playoff spot and we're still going to be in it, but we might not have like the guy that can really help change everything. But what we did get is someone who's 23, 24 years old, who might be able to be a starter for us for the next decade. And it might be the guy that we keep missing out on in other trades.
Give me an example of that player though. Like that's kind of what I'm looking for here, because you're talking about, okay, and again, I'm in the Malik Monk is their most important player camp. And the idea of trading him is like, oh, wow. Like that. I get where you're going. I don't hate the premise, but what type of player are you getting back? And just throw out a hypothetical name.
Yeah, I would say Jaden McDaniels.
Okay.
Like what if you could get the guy that you can't find anywhere else? And I'm not, again, Jaden McDaniels, he's averaging 11 points a game, but can Minnesota, we're talking about a 23-year-old who's locked up for, like, he starts a huge contract. And I don't even know if you can trade for him right now, but he's got a deal that starts at 22.5 million, goes to 24.5, 26, 28, 29.5 over. So, and I don't know that they would even like give up a player like that.
Sure.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, is there a trade with one of these teams where you give up a couple of players that make sense to them and you get back a player that drops you back a little bit and may equate to fewer wins today, but has a potential of going forward? And like, I'm not advocating for that. I'm saying that, like, when the trade deadline comes up, there are things that are discussed all over the board. Like,
sure.
And if people out there think that Malik Monk hasn't been discussed with other teams, you're flat out crazy. I mean, we're talking about an electric player who a lot of people around the league are like, wow, he's really like matured and come into his own. He's 25, 26 years old, right? He's got all kinds of future ahead of him. He as either a starting or a reserve guard, one of the two, but he's one of those guys that you look at like, man, he's got a ton of potential. Would the Kings get rid of him? And then on the flip side, the Kings have to look and say, be honest with themselves. Can we retain Malik Monk this summer?
Yeah.
Can we get a commitment from him that $17.4 million is enough for him to be with this team long term? And you might not be able to. And if you can't guarantee that he's coming back on the early bird, you got to consider everything, man. And has this been like, have teams come to the Kings and said, hey, what about Monk? I guarantee you they have.
I'd be shocked if they didn't.
I guarantee you they have. Because, I mean, you can see what kind of impact he has and where he can actually fit in and be a really good player for other teams as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I would, that said, I would be shocked if that deal does happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're just talking about hypotheticals.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about like taking a step back, for me, you're taking a step back.
Yeah.
Like, there's a good chance. And again, you're going to have to match salaries. There's going to be a lot of things. I haven't even run that trade through a machine or anything. Like sure. I haven't even said, hey, can this happen? But I guarantee you that there are multiple teams out there that have at least called.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I mean, even the Toronto deal, there's rumors that the Raptors at the last minute wanted Monk in the deal and the Kings pulled back. So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna, like, again, I don't know if anything's gonna happen. I don't know if it's gonna be a blockbuster. I don't know if it's like, we have no idea what's gonna happen moving forward.
Yeah.
But if you're the Kings, you know what you have right now, and you have to be at least a little bit concerned that someone is going to offer Malik Monk more money than you can offer him, and that he will leave. You have to.
Probably a little less now with the salary cap figure coming in.
Yeah, maybe a little bit less, but you still have to be concerned that there's a team out there, and that Monk, who hasn't made big money in his career, has to go chase money over fit, over a good situation. And I would get it. Like
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, players have to
never begrudge somebody going and getting their money.
No, me either.
That said, if we're doing prediction time,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that the move we do see is going to be a small one on the margins.
That's possible.
You want to do our fast break, Jiffy Lube fast break player of the game?
Yeah, let's do that.
I was joking with Megan, our promotions director, that I was going to do it first thing in today's show, and then I didn't. So we're going to do it last thing in today's show. Jiffy Lube fast break player of the game. All right, we name one of these after every single Kings game because our friends at Jiffy Lube have given us 82 $100 Jiffy Lube gift certificates and said, give one of these out after every Kings game. So that's what we're doing. You go to ESPN1320.com. There's a Jiffy Lube fast break contest page front and center. It looks great. You click on that, and you're going to enter the code word DOMAS. DOMAS. Domantas Sabonis is our Jiffy Lube fast break player of the game for the Kings' 103-94 win over the Grizzlies last night. Domantas Sabonis, of course, 20 points, 26 rebounds. That ties the Sacramento era single game high for the Kings, 26 boards. He also had 5 assists, 10 of 11 from the field. Great game for Domantas Sabonis last night in a game where not a ton of Kings showed up. So love that for him. And he helped the Kings get a win. And he is your Jiffy Lube fast break player of the game. Tomas at ESPN1320.com at the Jiffy Lube fast break Facebook page. Enter for your chance to win a $100 Jiffy Lube gift certificate and a Sacramento Kings jersey. We will tell you more about that drawing tomorrow. There it is.
There it is.
Also, make sure to check out the Purple and Black pregame show, which will debut tomorrow. It's going to be me and James taking you right up to the Kings 4:30 tip in Miami. Just little pregame talk.
Okay.
Can't wait.
I'm in.
I hope so. Like, you've agreed to this.
I've agreed to it.
Like,
holding my feet to the fire right now. I did agree to this.
Yeah, I'm going to hold you accountable.
All right.
There it is.
I will help you make it happen, Kyle.
I mean, kind of.
I'll be sitting here. Oh, no. I'm not doing any of the back end work. No.
God, no.
I don't touch the computers. No.
We're also going to have a little change to the show coming up next week. I'm working on it with Jonathan.
Next week is
Monday. Monday is what we're shooting for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's exciting times here at ESPN 13.
Yeah, we're doing intriguing things here. I like it.
I hope so. It would suck if we did all this and you were like, I don't like it.
Just
what?
I'm good. Yeah,
I don't want to do this anymore.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Let's go back to how the setup used to be.
That's right.
Good, bad, and ugly from the Kings game last night. I want to talk about one thing real quick.
Okay.
It's your second bullet point in good, bad, and ugly.
Let me. Okay.
A win is a win.
A win is a win is a win is a win. I feel like we keep talking about this.
I guess it is.
I feel like we keep talking about this.
I think I'm too nitpicky. You know what? This is my fault. I'm going to wear this. I put my expectations too high. My expectations were too high. That's what happened. I swung and missed on the character of what the Kings were, and I'm hanging on to my preseason prognosticating and my preseason thoughts, and I need to let those go. I need to stop anchoring to those, and I need to get in to the now and understand that this is what this team is this year. This is likely not going to be what the team looks like, certainly next year, maybe not after the trade deadline, but certainly next year. And that this is year 2 in a growth cycle. And in that case, yes, a win is a win. 100%.
Okay. A win is a win. Okay. I think what did you want them to do?
Kick the crap out of a terrible Grizzlies team.
I totally agree.
Terrible. They've been playing better than their roster, but kick the crap out of an inferior talent Grizzlies team.
Okay, but so Indiana lost to them. Beat them by 6 the night before.
Yeah.
You beat them by 9, and I don't know. Would you have felt better if it was a 20-point win, but it felt the same way? Or would you feel better if they just came out and blew them out in the first half and then I would have Colby Jones, Kessler Edwards.
You know what I would have felt better had they not looked like the same level of team.
Okay.
Like they turned it over 19 times.
Yeah.
It was the same. It was the same issue that has plagued them all year.
Yeah.
And credit, they won this one instead of losing it, right? Like, all right, they didn't pull away the way they did against Detroit. So maybe that is a sign of growth, that they didn't let a team punch them in the mouth and then didn't get back into it against an inferior team, I guess. But if you're going to project out and go, okay, can this team make more noise in the playoffs than they did last year? And when you're going toe to toe with the Memphis Hustle Grizzlies, I have a hard time reconciling that with like, yeah, hey, they're going to make a deeper playoff run this year. You know, maybe I'm making too much of it. I don't know.
I think like you want to see them avoid this type of game, but in an 82 game schedule, you know, I don't know. Like there's always going to be these things in an 82 game schedule. Yeah. And the fact that they have other types of games that don't feel good, I guess you cannot feel good about this game too. But it really does come down to wins and losses at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not super comfortable with what happened, but I'm also not writing them off.
All right, it's time for the handoff. Damian Barling's here. D'Lo and Casey coming up noon to 4 right here on ESPN 1320. Damian, where do you land on the whole idea of a win is a win coming off a Kings 9-point victory over the Memphis Hustle Grizzlies last night?
Yeah, I don't care.
You're just in on W's.
No, it's just win. Like, I don't care. Like, you can't be mad when they lose games and then mad because they didn't win the way you wanted them to.
Oh, you sure can.
No, that's dumb.
Check us out 10 to noon.
Here's the best. Like, I get it. They stunk last night.
Yeah.
But James, you talked during that stretch of games with the Bucks and the Suns and maybe to a certain degree the Pacers, but that there's lessons in those. There's learning lessons, and that's fine.
Finding ways to win.
Yeah, no, okay, fine. Learn in your W's. I'm all for that. If you want to talk about lessons and all of this stuff, fine. Yeah. Learn something when you win. The fact that the first thing Domas said in the post game last night was, "Well, this was unacceptable. We know it was unacceptable." Great. Accountability. First things first. But it's a lot easier to be accountable when you have a win versus a loss. I don't care how crappy they looked last night. They did what they had to do in the fourth quarter. They had a good second quarter. They had a good third quarter, and they did what they had to do in the final minutes. They won. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
I agree.
I wish I could stretch this out over the next 4 hours and be angry over it or think they got to do this, they got to do that. The fact is they won.
That, and I would add too that it's Domas who steps into that role to talk about it in post game. Like that dude did nothing wrong. I mean, did he turn the ball over a couple of times? Sure. But we're talking about a guy who went out and grabbed 26 rebounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
26
rebounds.
rebounds.
16 with like a couple minutes left in the first half.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I wanted him to get to 30 so bad.
I did too.
Yeah. He did actually. He had 17 and then they took one away at halftime.
Those classic nice. Memphis.
Yeah. Their scorekeepers.
They added it to Jaren Jackson's block total.
Right, they did. They may have.
Are you on the Jaren Jackson fraud train with me?
No, I like Jaren Jackson. I'm not going to call him a fraud.
I'm out.
Well, I mean, I don't. Here's what Jaren Jackson isn't come back. He's not an all-star.
Okay.
But
okay. Thank. That's all I needed. Thank you.
He's not an all-star, but I'm preparing for another one of those to be named in a couple of days.
Yeah. A couple of guys that you don't think belong.
I think there's going to be a guy probably in Minnesota who gets named to the all-star team who doesn't deserve to.
Yeah.
And a guy who grabbed 26 rebounds last night who might not.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%.
Which is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Rudy Gobert?
ridiculous. Yeah.
Silly.
You think, do you think Gobert will get in or do you think Cat will get in?
I think Rudy Gobert might be the Jaren Jackson. With all due respect to Jaren Jackson and Rudy Gobert for that matter.
Can I real quick?
I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong.
I would like the NBA to separate All-Star from the game itself.
Oh,
like Rudy Gobert could, if like, let's call him an All-Star. Okay. I don't want to watch Rudy Gobert in the All-Star game.
Okay.
I don't want to watch him run around out there trying to block shots and catch lobs. I don't care. So if
some people might feel that way about Domas.
Sure. And you know what? Fine. Include, even though I think you get him running the break and throw some cool passes. Okay.
I agree.
But Like, I would like that to be a separate game of, hey, here's the 24 most fun guys in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And just let them run around and do highlight stuff. If that's what the All-Star game is
well,
going to
in
be.
that case, it's Kyle Kuzma and it's Dylan Brooks. Throw Jordan Poole out there so you can throw a couple of passes off the backboard.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm so in. They don't have to be all-stars.
It's on brand with the All-Star game at this point, so why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why not?
I can understand Minnesota because they are right now the number 1 seed, right? But they don't have a second player who's an all-star.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I went through and I started looking at the teams that might have 2 all-star level guys.
Well, let's stay at the top of the conference real quick. And you could go. Does OKC?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
All they have is SGA.
SGA. Yeah.
There's no other.
Chet's not there yet. Jalen Williams not there yet.
There's no debatable player.
They have really good players, not 2 all-stars.
Yeah. Okay. So we can keep going, right? So if you stay at the top of Denver, absolutely not.
Jamal not there this year?
No, Jamal's like 20 points a game. Like he's not at an all-star level.
I think Jamal Murray is, I think, an all-star caliber player who probably shouldn't be in the all-star game.
Okay.
Like, he is a championship level player. He is the number 2 guy on a championship team, but I agree. I don't think he's an all-star.
This is interesting though. Keep going.
But he's averaging 21.4 a game, right? So let's keep going down the list. We get to OKC, then we get to the Clippers. Okay. You can make an argument for Kawhi, and you can make an argument for Paul George.
Yeah, there's no argument for Kawhi. Kawhi's an all-star.
Kawhi is unbelievable.
Yes, but you can't make an argument for both of them to make an all-star team.
I disagree.
Why?
I strongly disagree. They're getting 2, and if it's not Paul George, it's probably James Harden.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I mean, Harden's averaging 17 points a game. And if you're going to compare him, he's averaging 8.6 assists. It's not like he's putting up the gaudy numbers that he has in the past. So if you're going to give Kawhi Leonard at 23.8 and Paul George is at 23 a game.
Yeah, both of those guys are all-stars.
I agree.
I agree that they're.
It might be the best team in the conference.
In the past, they've been all-stars, but Kawhi Leonard gets the nod without any question. But I don't know how do you put him in over a guy who's averaging. How do you put Paul George in over a guy who's averaging 3 points less?
Because they don't. 3 points less.
Well, Sabonis is averaging 20. He's at 23.
Okay.
We're talking about 3 points less, but he's leading the league in rebounding. He's averaging 8 assists a game.
I don't think they buy Domantas Sabonis. That's why.
But we're talking about a guy who's already a 3-time all-star.
You don't have to sell me on this.
No,
I understand. I just I don't know. I'm preparing myself to be angry is basically what I'm doing.
I think people should prepare themselves to be angry.
Keep going real quick. What other teams are there?
The next team is the Kings at the number 5 seed. Let's get to Phoenix.
Okay, so they're probably getting 2.
They're probably getting 2, but
you have to factor in the popularity aspect of this. That's why James Harden to me is.
I don't agree about Devin Booker. That's not my guy, but I also respect it.
Hey, Booker's had a really good season, and I can understand
and it'll be KD and Devin Booker.
Okay, so Kyrie Irving is
KD's already in, I think.
Right,
so.
KD's already in. Mm-hmm. So the next team is Dallas. Luka's already in.
Yep.
There's no way Kyrie's getting in. He's missed too many games, right?
Can't.
We get to the Pelicans. Like, do one of their forwards get in? It's tough, man. But I would tell you that, again, just look at if you take away the fact that they beat the Kings 3 times, but Zion is at 22 points, 4.7 assists, 5.5 rebounds. He doesn't compare statistically at all to Sabonis. He's 2 points per game better than Sabonis, but he's 7 rebounds less, and he's 3.5 assists less. And Brandon Ingram, 21.4. Like, okay, 5.7 assists, 4. He's really good.
So I feel like there's 1 there, but you can't sell me on 2.
No. And then we get to the Lakers. The number 9 seed is
2.
going to get 2.
Yep.
That's
they
garbage.
Absolutely are.
But it's garbage.
You don't have to sell me on this. They are. They're going to keep Anthony Davis out?
They should.
No chance.
Nope.
Yeah.
Zero chance.
They're not. They're not going to keep Anthony Davis out.
We're gonna be lucky if they keep Austin Reeves out.
Well,
yeah, there you go.
Probably true.
After that, number 10 is I don't think Lauri Markkanen makes it. I don't think anyone from
that's
Houston.
probably the end of the list right there.
Well, it's not though, because number 12,
Steph
is going to get in.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, my fault. Yep.
And you do know that Steph's stats not as good as De'Aaron Fox's here.
No,
De'Aaron Fox's
I think
stats
De'Aaron.
are better.
I'm starting to feel like De'Aaron's in.
Yeah, I'm feeling like De'Aaron's in as
And then
well.
Domas is like because you can't acknowledge that they're both good. So,
Yeah.
Sacramento, for God's sake. So one of them has to not be there.
I'd be floored if De'Aaron Fox didn't make it. Honestly, I'd be shocked if Domas didn't.
He'd be the only one I think it was the top 10.
Oh, in scoring?
Yeah, that wouldn't make it if he didn't make it.
Yeah, that's tough.
That'd be incredible.
This is going to be one of those years where Domas, I think he's going to be an all-star. I'd be very surprised if he's not. But it's like he's not an all-star, but then his first or second team NBA, probably second team.
Yeah.
Well, third team.
Well, I guess it depends how many more games Joe misses.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
If Joe can't qualify for the MVP, that means he can't qualify for all NBA, which means Domas might very well be all second team.
He's already there. He didn't play last night. He's so close to not being.
Yeah,
how many more games do they have in Denver?
Am I right?
I think he needs 5 more games of eligibility.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right, we got to go. D'Lo and KC are coming up next right here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. See you tomorrow.